Welcome back to the channel, guys, and today we will be talking about the top 10 cost 70 units in the game. Now keep in mind this is definitely opinionated, so if you disagree, by all means, leave a comment, share your opinions. I'm always open for that. I'm honestly kind of getting ahead of myself because realistically I would like to just keep the top 10 videos somewhere in March, June, September, and December, just to do them, kind of seasonally, I guess. But I'm not going to be able to do anything at the beginning of March, so I figured I might as well just get a jump on things. If you like this kind of content, definitely be sure to support the channel any way you can, and we will be starting with Shalze. Now, one thing I do want to say is that I'm not going to be ranking these characters. I just want to honestly just kind of make mention of the top 10, and it's honestly going to really depend on what you have, the characters you can put around them, how you can utilize them. So I feel like that was pretty important to say, but yeah, Shalze I believe is honestly really good. I feel like she was slept on initially whenever she first dropped in the game. Having an ability to give courage to another unit I think is pretty powerful, as well as herself. An extremely good healer. She has a lot of support abilities I think that just honestly give her a really good advantage over a lot of other cost 70 units. I also think her TMR is actually pretty decent. I think increasing elemental chain resistance is something that is just going to be really utilized in PvP. And then on top of that, she does have full life pretty much, so I think that's also really appealing. She has things like curative prayer and of course unavailable pain, which I think is just really important sometimes to just have that guaranteed hit. And honestly, the master and dream ability I think are pretty good, so I feel pretty safe putting her in the top 10. And next up we have Grifford. It was really tough to pick between him and another unit, but I mean, at the end of the day, I do kind of feel like he's better. I'm not entirely sure how the community feels about him, but I feel like when he was released, it kind of came off as he wasn't really a big deal or anything. But this guy has a lot in his kit. He can manipulate CT, he has damage absorption, a means of gaining aggro to himself. He has some really good support abilities. He can inflict sleep, he can also possibly inflict frostbite. And then on top of that, he has courage, so I definitely feel pretty comfortable putting him here. And not to mention having a physical HP shield is actually pretty good. And next up we have Gernsback. Oh my gosh, man, this guy eluded me so much. But outright, I do think he's extremely useful. A lot of the characters I would deem in the meta are weak to Pierce, so that's something that definitely works in his favor. Having Sniper and Nightblade or something else that definitely kind of worked for him. One thing I outright do want to say about the character is he doesn't have anything that's extremely crazy, but generally his kit just really works out. There's a lot of things in there, as far as his sub job goes. Even if he doesn't have Drain Rush and Nightblade, or he doesn't have the guaranteed hit with Sniper, his main job will make up with that. Just honestly, sometimes having a high accuracy attack is sometimes better. And being a character that hasn't gotten that second mastery ability, he's really, really good. So that's somebody I definitely try to keep an eye on. And last but not least, for our general pool characters, we have Ma Cherie, somebody who I think is just honestly really, really good, man. I think a lot of people have caught on to how good she really is. I already talked about her a little bit in my top 10 support units, but honestly, man, Calamity Guard is just extremely powerful. Her TMR is pretty popular and it's really, really good. I mean, being able to just give a general barrier for 3 hits as well as healing, it's something definitely not to scoff at. But in general, I do feel pretty comfortable with putting her on the top 10, and it's honestly kind of surprising that a unit this old is just still so good. And now to start with our limited characters. And who better to start with probably one of my favorite characters just in WOTF in general. I think her main job is extremely good. Her sub job I think is extremely good. She can be used for guild raid and stuff like that. Anytime you need a chainer, that 3 hit is something just honestly just extremely useful. And then on top of that, also having an Ice Imperil I think kind of helps as well as far as trying to deal more damage. And for the scheme that you kind of want to go with her, I think her mastery and her dream ability just fit perfectly when it comes down to it. And I'd have to say that her limit break is extremely potent. If you're able to hit 2 people or maybe the whole team with frostbite, that is going to really suck, but you need that frostbite to land for sure. Her TMR is pretty decent, and just outright having courage and things like a barrier I think work really well, especially with A2. But one thing I will definitely say about this character when it comes down to any kind of PvP, you would want to supplement that accuracy. You want her defense and all those things to make her tanky, but you definitely want to try and supplement that accuracy as much as possible. She doesn't have a guaranteed hit, nor does she have a high accuracy hit, so maybe evasion is just one of those worst case scenarios for her. Halloween Lucio, a character that I extremely hate. He's extremely powerful. His limit break is really, really potent. The haste I think works in his favor. He has a HP barrier as well, and having a good TMR definitely doesn't hurt. And not to mention Duelist outright is just probably one of the better sub jobs to have for an evasive unit, and having a guaranteed hit with Lancer is something else that just really works in his favor. He also has re-raise removal. This dude just sucks, man. I hate him so much, but I guess that's I don't know, speaking to how good he is. And now moving on to one of my other favorite cost cost 70 units, we have Winter Wrath. My goodness, it's the same situation that I feel like Revis kind of has. You want to supplement that accuracy as much as possible. No guaranteed hits, no high accuracy hit, but she's good nonetheless. I believe her support abilities are pretty good, as well as having a counter that can heal herself. Her TMR is not that bad, but I do kind of wish that it would just like hit everyone at once. That way she wouldn't have to like, you know, really try and like focus on just doing it one at a time. Nonetheless, Befuddling Spearfall I think is just extremely powerful. Like I really love that skill, but her limit break I believe is probably the best part about her, especially for haste users, man. There is nothing like getting slow thrown onto you. It completely just disrupts your whole scheme. I do want to say that her support ability whenever she deals damage and gives one of her allies damage absorption is good, but honestly I would have preferred that it was just outright a heal. But that's just honestly my opinion. I don't know, maybe it's better. I really do like that she got Rune Knight. I think not being limited to pure magic damage is pretty powerful, but I'm a big fan of her main sub job, being able to inflict stop, as well as having like a means of healing that has some pretty decent buffs on it. Sometimes it just honestly makes that main sub job pretty tantalizing to use. Now moving on to Shadowlynx. My goodness, this is another character, just depending on the map, man, she's a terror to deal with. Like honestly, she has a lot of stuff that's working for her. Some really powerful buffs, as well as having reflex is definitely nothing that's gonna, you know, hurt her. Being able to dispel courage, and her limit break is actually really good as well. She also has guaranteed hits, so you don't necessarily need to use Ranger, and Axe Knight does have some pretty potent buffs in there, so I mean, you can definitely take that route and not limit her to just dealing missile damage. Another character that seems to just love eluding me, Halloween Lucia. Really good just for a lot of stuff I think I've mentioned in previous top 10s. Toad's Curse is one of those things for sure. She has a HP barrier for physical damage, also has a guaranteed hit as well as a high accuracy hit, so just really potent. And I would like to think that her TMR is useful. I don't know if like people utilize this for guild raid or anything that I guess you would need like a high chain, so you'll have to let me know how effective that is. And next up we have Luna Catone, who has an extremely powerful kit. Her limit break, I think just anybody who can give themselves haste off of an attack is just really appealing. She's a CT manipulator, has an extremely good support and one that's kind of questionable, a really powerful counter skill as well. She can also dispel haste, and I guess she's not limited. I don't know about that. And the same may go for Shadowlynx. I guess I didn't really pay attention, but nonetheless has a high accuracy attack. She's a really good chainer, whether you want to use Nightblade or just outright her main sub job. Her TMR looks really appealing. I really like TMRs that have agility as well as being able to increase reaction block rate. The rest of it is just icing on the cake. And the last thing I really love about her is the ability to increase her own accuracy. I mean, there's sometimes like nothing worse than being in a fight with somebody who's evasive and they just don't have a means to necessarily raise that accuracy or raise that luck. So that's something else that I think really works in her favor. But that should do it for the top 10. Honestly, I didn't want to gab too much about the characters. I just wanted to just do a quick glance, give my opinion real quick, and you know, maybe this will help somebody out or piss somebody off, who knows. But at the end of the day, it is opinion based. You know, I'm not saying that anything for sure is just like written in stone, but nonetheless, I do hope you enjoyed the video. I hope to catch you in a future one. Take it easy.